Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader and tonight we're going to focus on the Egyptian-Algerian bilateral ties as we did see today. The visit conducted by the President of Algeria, Abdelmajid Tebboune, and the reception by His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to him at the Cairo International Airport, and of course the discussions that took place ranging from investments and economic cooperation between Egypt and Algeria and up to the ongoing escalations by the Israeli occupation army against the Gazans and the Palestinians in general, and as well as the Lebanese situation and the developments in Sudan and Libya. And to be having the first top story for today, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Sunday said that the opportunities for cooperation with Algeria are great and wide, both in the field of investments and the joint projects. Addressing a joint press conference with the visiting Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune, the President said that discussions also to tackle the grave dangers facing the region, mainly the war in Gaza and Lebanon, and the unfolding situation in Libya and Sudan. We'll be having more details in the upcoming report. Stay tuned.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Sunday said opportunities for cooperation with Algeria are great and wide in investments and joint projects. Addressing a joint press conference with visiting Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune, the President said the discussions tackled boosting bilateral relations and pushing cooperation to new horizons. President al-Sisi congratulated Tebboune to his re-election and extended greetings of Algerians on the 70th anniversary of the Algerian Revolution. President al-Sisi stressed total rejection and any displacement of Palestinians out of their territories. For his part, Tebboune said Egypt and Algeria share mutual understanding and robust cooperation in various fields. He hailed Egypt's historical support to Algeria and all Arab countries during the quest for national independence. The Algerian president also said cooperation with Egypt is multifaceted, citing cooperation in energy investment. Tebboune expressed great concern about the fatal humanitarian situation that Palestinians are suffering in Gaza, supporting Egypt's call for a ceasefire and describing Israeli escalations as a complete genocide. Earlier, President al-Sisi and Tebboune held talks at El Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace. Upon his arrival at the palace, the Algerian president received a warm reception from President al-Sisi with guards of honors and martial bands playing the national anthems of the two countries. The Algerian president have arrived in Cairo on Sunday and was received by President al-Sisi at Cairo International Airport.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi attends the second Global Congress of Population Health and Human Development. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi arrives in the Russian city of Kazan to participate in the BRICS summit, which Egypt attends for the first time as a member of the grouping. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi meets with Russian President Vladimir Putin on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in the Russian city of Kazan. The two presidents hold an expanded session of talks. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi participates in the first plenary session of the BRICS summit, held under the title Strengthening Multilateralism for Just Global Development and Security. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi participates in the BRICS Plus meeting. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi meets with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, and the President of the People's Republic of China, Xi Jinping, as well as with the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa on the sidelines of the BRICS summit held in Kazan, Russia. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi receives a phone call from the French President Emmanuel Macron. They discussed the escalating situation in the Middle East and explore ways to de-escalate tensions. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi witnesses the celebration of the Union of Egyptian Tribes and Families, Tales of Heroes, on the occasion of the anniversary of the October War victory.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and of course we did see a couple of reports, one about the visit made by the Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune and the warm welcome given to by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi today, as well as the press conference that followed, discussing a number of topics. One of them was the situation in Gaza, in Lebanon, and the unfolding situation as well in Libya and Sudan. To be focusing on such an important topic and the historical bilateral relations on both the diplomatic, the political and the economic levels between Egypt and Algeria. I'm honored to be having with me over the program for tonight is Ambassador Medhat Miligy, the former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. And of course, we did see the presidential activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi over the past week in the past report. But let's start with the Egyptian-Algerian relations as we did see today. How do you see the importance of those bilateral ties, especially that Algeria was the first visit made by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in 2014 after taking office?
Exactly. Well, actually, the relations between the two countries are deeply rooted in history. And, of course, everybody knows the Egyptian implication in the Algerian Revolution at the time of the French occupation to Algeria, and how Egypt was the backyard of the Algerian resistance until it gained its independence in 1962. Having said that, we have to move a little bit forward to the current situation and position of both countries. I think there are several factors that are most importantly are explaining the importance of this visit. The first one, I believe, it's going to be the presence of Algeria as a non-permanent member in the Security Council.
Yes.
And I think this is the only Arab voice that we have at the Security Council, which means that all our projects, all our ambitions and actually aspiration has to go through Algeria.
Yes.
Algeria has proven so far that it's a strong defendant of the Palestinian cause, something that it trained over the whole last year, which means during almost the whole presence of Algeria in the Security Council. This is on one hand. The second thing, I believe, since we have an internal and partially, of course, external conflict in Libya, as you know, that both countries, east and west of Libya, are Egypt and Algeria. And from here come also another very important fragment, which is the relations between the two countries, how to contain the Libyan crisis, not to propage in any of the two countries. And that's why it's very important to coordinate the efforts of the two countries to calm the situation and to regain the integrity of Libya, especially that we know that there is a certain division between those who are in Tripoli and those who are in Benghazi. And this is actually not a good sign. And we all hope that any foreign interference should be leaving Libya to the Libyans to decide their own fate and their own future. The third thing, I believe, of course, is the crisis and the genocide that is taking place in Palestine.
Yes.
Though this is a very important issue for both countries. Algeria as one of the strong defendants of the Palestinian cause, and Egypt, of course, with its historical relation with Palestine and the Palestinian cause. Of course, beside those international points, we have to talk a little bit about the bilateral relations between the two countries.
Yes.
As we all know, Algeria is one of the biggest countries of the world. I think they are number 5 or 6 to export gas to the world. And Egypt is currently an importer of natural gas. And I think especially that we see that among the delegation of Mr. Tabboune is the Minister of Energy himself, Mr. Ahmed Ragbi. So that put the whole visit in perspective at this momentum, at this time that we are all facing new challenges in the area. We don't exactly know what's going to be the day after. Everybody is talking about the day after, but not in detail. And I think coordinating our efforts as Arab countries is a very important thing. And Egypt, as you know, has become the Qibla of all efforts in the region in order to ease the situation on the Palestinian people and in the genocide that's taking place by the Israelis. So all these elements together form a very important reason for such a visit at this moment.
Just mentioning one of the statements made by the Algerian president today following the press conference, or during the press conference with the Egyptian president Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, he mentioned that Egypt has supported Algeria for a number of years to be gaining independence, as you mentioned, about 72 years ago, of course, during the tenure of late President Gamal Abdel Nasser. And he supported a number of countries, not just in Africa, not just in the Arab world, but even in the Middle East and beyond that in Asia and third world countries, if we can call them that nowadays. How do you see the importance historically of the bilateral ties between Egypt and those countries that Egypt has supported to be gaining independence?
I believe that these are still the base over which the Egyptian relations are built with these countries. As an ambassador, I served in Latin America.
Yes.
And I know how people really appreciate the efforts of Gamal Abdel Nasser, late President Gamal Abdel Nasser, in order to gain their independence, and how he did not spare any effort to help them. Of course, we didn't help a lot, but we still managed to try to give them what they need in order to achieve their goals.
Yes.
And of course, in Africa, we are rebuilding over these bases. Luckily, we have now a president who cares very much about the relations with Africa, which is,
yes,
and he understands the strategic depth of having strong relations with the African continent. And as he mentioned it, when we did not make enough effort to keep the relations with the African country,
yes,
we got hit by several blows from there. I mean, first but not last but not least, at least we can talk about the Renaissance Dam of Ethiopia and how this is affecting us, and how this might be a seed for a regional conflict that might spread all over. I mean, we have explained that although we want and we will continue to exert all our efforts in diplomatic issues in order to salvage this issue, but we will not starve. We will not wait until it's very hard for us to live. There is a historical right for Egypt. Egypt needs this water, and we have to get it. Excuse me.
Yes.
So I believe that President Sisi understands the meaning of the importance of the strategic relation between Egypt and the African countries. We have seen him ever since he took power in 2014, and his efforts to regain the Egyptian positions. And one of the strong, if not the strongest pillar that over which we are basing these new relations with the African country are two things. The historical relations that were built during the time of the 1952 revolution, and secondly is the motto of Egypt, which is the win-win relations. Egypt is the only country in the region that is capable of helping African countries on a win-win basis. I mean, we are not looking for just to benefit from this relation as much. We are talking about mutual benefit. We are the only one who is providing as much as we can training courses in all fields of development.
Yes.
Whether we're talking energy, we are talking about administration, we are talking about agriculture, we are talking about defense, we are talking about police force, all aspects. I was the witness myself. Once again, I served as an ambassador to one of the African countries, and I saw how many courses we are presenting. We are presenting a lot of courses for their with their cadres.
Yes.
And not just that, actually, sometimes we tailor things based on the needs of the African countries. All this because now we do have a president who understands the importance of these relations. In previous eras, we did not care much, and the result was catastrophic on the Egyptian relations with these countries. So now when President Tebboune is talking about how Egypt have helped Algeria, yes, it is true. And he, from the old generation, who remembered the sacrifices, exactly, and the sacrifices that Egypt did in order to help the Algerian. And actually, it's one of the examples that we are giving for some people who say, why the Palestinian resistance and what did they gain after killing over 40,000? One of the answers that are said, Algeria lost over 1 million to gain its independence. Independence cannot be taken just for granted. You have to work for it. And unfortunately, it's time for the Palestinians to be paying the price in order to regain their independence. And we hope that the international community would listen to their cry and help them to get their independence by stopping Israel from continuing its genocide.
Yes, Ambassador Medhat Miligy, allow me to be going to another report of the daily debate for tonight, focusing on the economic cooperation and the bilateral ties between Egypt and Algeria, as the two countries have signed 12 new agreements to be boosting ties in the fields of industry and investment. We'll be having more details in the upcoming report. Stay tuned.
Egypt and Algeria signed 12 agreements in the fields of industry, investment and exports by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and his Algerian counterpart. The agreements include small and micro-sized enterprises, water resources, employment, higher education and scientific research, diplomatic training, environment, youth and sports, and endowments and Islamic affairs. The accords were signed during the meeting of the 8th round of the Joint Higher Committee in Algiers. The meeting was attended by Egyptian and Algerian ministers and officials, including ministers of energy, higher education, housing and trade. During the meeting, the two parties agreed on completing ongoing projects and exploring other horizons for partnership and investment. Madbouli stressed the importance of charting new trade routes to facilitate transfer of goods between the two countries, other than land route passing through Libya. The Algerian Prime Minister said he hopes the forum will achieve a real leap in Algerian-Egyptian partnership. Madbouli stated the forum will serve as executive arm of a host of joint projects that Egypt and Algeria seek to launch before the end of 2022, noting that both governments encourage the respective private sectors to engage in a set of investments. The Prime Minister stressed the importance of finding alternative trade routes with Algeria to facilitate goods shipping between the two countries. The Egyptian Prime Minister urged boosting Algerian-Egyptian trade exchange, stating that the current volume of trade exchange between both countries is not in line with the production and export capabilities of our two countries and the needs of their markets. Egypt and Algeria have been keen on cementing their relations at political and economic levels over the past years, as well as coordinating on regional issues, including on Libya, Syria and Palestine, and terrorism in Africa and the Arab world. In 2021, Egypt's non-oil exports to Algeria increased by 14% and commercial exchange bounced back by 15.4% to $1 billion after the pandemic.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me over the program for tonight Ambassador Medhat Miligy, the former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much once again for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate. We have seen over the past report the cooperation between Egypt and Algeria, more specifically for today, following the meeting and following the press conference conducted by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune, that there is special focus on the investment of energy, the field of energy between both countries. How do you see the importance, as you mentioned, a win-win situation for both countries to be unfolding?
Exactly. Algeria, as we mentioned earlier, is one of the biggest countries importing natural gas, for instance, not to mention all other petroleum products. And from here come, of course, we all know that Egypt is scarce in these material, although we do have,
yes,
but it's not enough for local consumption, and we have to export. And from here come the necessity of trying to get benefit from the Algerian experience, since they are one of the largest exporting countries in the field of natural gas and in the field of petroleum products. So from here I think the necessity to further develop the relations between the two countries in this specific field. Of course, there were 12 agreements signed between the two countries in various fields.
Yes.
We are talking, I mean, from political consultation all the way until water resources and other economic ties such as investment and trade and other fields. I think this visit is marked by a lot of agreement, and it paves the way for the high committee between the two countries that is going to be held very soon, I believe, here in Cairo. And it fosters actually the relations between the two countries at this very, very delicate moment of the Arab history at large. I mean, we don't all know how is it going to be shaped, the future of the region after the last escalation of Israel with several countries, not just with Palestine. I mean, we are talking about all other countries in the same region. I mean, talking about Lebanon, we are talking about Syria, we are talking about Yemen, not to mention Iran, which is part of the Middle East. So, I mean, Israel is hoping that it can reshape the region according to its vision, which we hope it will not happen, and we hope that we are going to be smart enough to not allow Israel to continue with its targeting for the Arab projects in general, actually.
Yes. Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned that one of the fields that we are cooperating with Algeria in is the water resources, and Egypt is well known to be suffering from water scarcity nowadays, according to the statements of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli. How do you see the importance of Egypt cooperating with countries in Africa to be solving this issue, including Algeria?
Well, actually, as you know, I mean, Egypt has always been known to use the Nile to answer to all its needs in water resources. Yes. Now that there are some doubts about the possibility of having the quantities that we need. As you know, historically, we used to take 55 million cubic meters of water, and we might get less than that, and we have to make it up. And accordingly, we have to use the other countries' experiences in this field, how the desalination of water can work in a beneficial way, or the water price is going to be above the possibility of most Egyptians. I mean, if we are talking about that the price of petroleum products is getting higher,
yes, but
this can be spared. But water, you cannot spare water. I mean, you cannot just say, okay, we'll manage somehow in a different way. It's impossible. Yes. So I think Egypt is very keen to, as a government and as a state, to provide all Egyptians with what they need, the quantity of water according to the international and the world standard in water consumption. And in this we have to coordinate our efforts with all countries who can help us to bypass this hard moment. We are 110 million persons that needs a lot of water, and we have to provide them with this water. So that's why I think the importance of signing such an agreement with Algeria, especially that Algeria doesn't have a river, and they depend a lot on desalination of water for their population. Maybe they are not as many millions as we are, but indeed they have a good experience in this field that we can benefit from.
We can import the expertise.
Not to the point. Well, we are talking about expertise here,
yes.
and the best way is to desalinate large quantities of water, which, as you know, is a very delicate process and very costly process as well. So maybe we can receive some of their experts to tell us how they did it. Because we are, I mean, the government is already undertaking. I mean, we heard about many projects. Mr. Madbouli himself, the Prime Minister, spoke about several projects in the water desalination and how the government is giving its utmost attention in order to try to make it up for the less water we are getting from the Nile right now. And it's not a secret that we have already managed how to use the water. As you know, we do not cultivate, for instance, rice as we used to before, simply because we don't have enough. As you know, rice needs lots of water,
yes.
and we don't have these quantities of water. That's why our cultivation of rice is diminishing right now because of this reason. So there is a lot of measures that the government has undertaken already, and moreover we are seeing how we can also make it up for the scarcity of water in order to not to make the Egyptian population feel that there is a problem with the River Nile.
Yes, one of the statements we have seen today made by His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was about Palestine and the Palestinians and the Egyptian total rejection of the displacement of the Palestinians, which is a statement that was repeated several times over the past year, several times as well over the past month, during the month of October, celebrating the war victory in 1973 against Israel on several occasions. How do you see the importance of stating this fact on every possible occasion?
Well, I think President Sisi have mentioned several facts that are a doctrine for Egyptians in general. I mean, whether we're talking about the government or the Egyptian public. Which is that we do not accept the liquidation of the Palestinian cause, and that the Palestinian has to have their own state. Having said that, I believe that the situation is a little bit changing right now. I think President Sisi understands that now we have to start to own our own narrative to the situation. It's not just about defending the Palestinian, but it's also to have our own narrative, our own side of the history that has to be heard. And I believe that one of the most important things is that our media, for example, and this is something maybe beside the point, but I see it very important. Our media, for instance, is focused on trying to make Israel and, of course, the West to see that there are atrocities and war crimes committed against the Palestinian people. And as if the whole battle is to show them what Israel is doing and how this is totally unlawful and against the international law and the international humanitarian law. I believe that we have to stop this. The idea is not to raise their awareness about the situation. They know what is it.
Yes.
But for political interests, for political money that is involved, especially in the United States, and how the AIPAC, which is considered an American organization, that is affecting the politics in the U.S. Because of these interests, so they choose not to see the reality of things. So the idea is not to show them what they already know, because they know it already, but they just choose to turn a blind eye because there are interests in seeing the issue differently. So now we have to start to speak our own point of view. We have to start to speak about that if this would not stop, we have to see another solution, how to help the Palestinian in order to gain their independence. The idea, I mean, let's see, what is the West doing for Ukraine in order to prevent the Russian from annexing its territories? Let's see what we are doing, you as West, and we have to do the same thing for the Palestinian. We have to help the Palestinian in order to be strong enough to stop the aggressor from annexing their land into his. I think that we have, as I said, this is the main word, to own the narrative, to have our own version of the story, and not just to defend what's been doing.
And I could be focusing on the Egyptian version of the story, as we have seen yesterday, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi attending a celebration for the October War victories, and the celebrations that we have seen yesterday, the tales of heroes of the Egyptians we have seen, specially organized at the new administrative capital, the big stadium, from the tribal union and the civil society organizations. And I would like to focus on the statements made by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi that the situation that we are witnessing nowadays is a lot similar to what happened after 1967 and until 1973 in terms of rumors and in terms of the situation in every other country around us. How can we be focusing on such an important lesson for the Egyptians to be knowing more of for the future? What will be happening?
I think there are many messages, and maybe in my vision, the most important message mentioned by President Sisi was the word, the word struggle. If we did not struggle, if we did not fight back,
yes,
we wouldn't have gained our land back. And this is the idea. The Palestinian, in between brackets, then the Palestinian did the right thing by
yes,
defending their own land,
fighting
by trying
back
to
yes,
combat and to confront the aggressor. And this is the only way, unfortunately. The world have started to see things differently. And when I mean the world, it's not the administrations. Because the administrations who are reigning over Europe, West in general, and the United States are the same ones. That's why we didn't see much of a difference. But the younger generation, which have seen with their own eyes what Israel is committing, those people on the medium and long range are going to have a different vision of Israel and what Israel is doing. And I believe that the support for Israel is going to be a lot less than what it is today, unless, once again, money is going to play a role. Israel is doing very good when it comes to how to manipulate the realities by influencing, whether we are talking about elections or else. And these are not my words, these are the words of President Carter. And when he mentioned clearly in a TV interview that if any politician, any parliamentarian, whether in the Congress or the Senate, would think about not supporting Israel, he can be sure that he will not be re-elected. And this is the key point. That's why American administration and American politicians and American congressmen, congresswomen and senators are defending Israel, because they owe it somehow to the Israelis that they have to defend their interests, since they were the one behind him winning the elections. And it's not a secret. Every year or every election, the AIPAC, which is the biggest organization that supports Israel and the Jewish community, is publishing how many of its candidates won the elections, and they said it's over 90%, which means over 90% of the people who got financial support from this organization won the election. So then over 90% would be defending the interest of Israel, since Israel was somehow behind this. And I believe that this is one of the most important things in the American election and in the West in general, and that's why we see what we are seeing right now. But in the medium and long term, I think that we are going to see a new generation of politicians who will not defend Israel the way we're seeing right now.
Yes, we have seen one of the statements as well by the Algerian president today, Abdelmajid Tebboune, saying that he is supporting the efforts of Egypt to reaching a ceasefire between the Israeli army and, of course, the Palestinian group of resistance, Hamas. How do you see the importance of the diplomatic efforts by Egypt, by Qatar, by the United States to be mediating over the past year, to be reaching a ceasefire, to be reaching a truce, to be ending the genocide war?
I'll just give one simple example, and it's up to our dear viewers to deduct from it what they can see. The last visit of the State Minister, Mr. Blinken, to the region was just to Israel, and he did not visit any other countries in the region.
This is the 11th time, I think.
Well, yes, but this time he did not visit Egypt
Not the region,
or Jordan,
yes.
which means that he didn't really have something to offer. Unfortunately, no matter how sincere we are about the initiatives that we are presenting for the 11th time maybe in Egypt. But this war will not stop until Israel will decide when it will stop it, because the Americans cannot stop it, and they said it clearly. We are in the strongest time of Israel and the weakest time of the United States, since they're going to be facing election within a few weeks.
Yes.
And none of the candidates is ready to take any position that might deter the electors from electing him, and accordingly Israel is having its prime time to do whatever it wants, since nobody not just will not criticize it, will not even raise a finger towards Israel. The reality of things and how things should be done is just like how we are doing things once again, like Ukraine. Any country who is supporting Israel should be also a pariah state just like Israel. But this will not happen, unfortunately, for the reasons we mentioned before. So we have to wait, even with our good intentions and good initiatives here in Egypt, and this is not the first time, this is, as you said, 11th time. Our administration and President Sisi himself is talking about a necessity of a ceasefire and the necessity of resuming the exchange of prisoners and the necessity of establishing a Palestinian state. But this, unfortunately, is not happening. Why? Because Israel is continuing with its aggression and nobody is stopping Israel, and still, yet they are defending Israel. After all what we've seen, they are defending Israel, to the point that lately, after the last 2 days, we've seen over 150 persons martyred.
Yes.
And it's becoming so commonly that nobody's even speaking about it right now. I mean, it's not like at the beginning of the war there was a massacre of 60 or 70 persons. Now we have 150 over 48 hours and nobody's talking about it. I mean, the blood has been too much to the point that nobody is talking about it anymore. But we hope that the positive steps that were taken by many countries, such as Spain, as Norway, as Ireland, those countries will lead other countries to see things differently. We are seeing a difference. We are seeing a change in the general position, not at the administration level, but at least in the public opinion level, which one day will definitely affect the position of the governments.
Yes, Ambassador Medhat Miligy, allow me to be going to the last report of the daily debate for tonight, focusing on the discussions and the collaboration between the Minister of International Cooperation, Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, and its counterpart from Algeria regarding possible collaboration and cooperation between both countries in several fields. So stay tuned, we'll be having more details in the upcoming report.
Minister of International Cooperation, Planning and Economic Development, Rania Al-Mashat, met with Saida Nagza, President of the General Confederation of Algerian Enterprises, to explore opportunities for joint cooperation. The meeting aligns with the Ministry's focus on strengthening economic ties with key partners. Al-Mashat emphasized the long-standing cooperation between Egypt and Algeria, highlighting the government's commitment to diversifying and deepening relations across various development sectors. This collaborative effort aims to achieve mutual interests and foster stronger connections between the business communities of both nations. Discussions centered on enhancing joint cooperation, drawing upon a strong foundation of existing relations. The minister highlighted Egypt's ongoing efforts to create a favorable investment climate and improve the business environment. These measures aim to support development plans and unlock promising opportunities for collaboration between Egyptian and Algerian private sectors. Al-Mashat commended the recent advancement in economic relations, citing the leadership of both countries, the successful sessions of the Egyptian-Algerian Joint Higher Committee and the Egyptian-Algerian Economic Forum, co-chaired by the respective prime ministers. She expressed anticipation for the next committee session, which holds further potential for unlocking collaborative opportunities. The minister added that the launch of a joint business council involving private sector representatives from both countries, which plays a crucial role in strengthening cooperation frameworks and fostering collaboration between Egyptian and Algerian companies, ultimately contributing to broader development efforts.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me over the program for tonight Ambassador Medhat Miligy, the former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much once again for being with us tonight. We have seen over the past report the importance of economic cooperation between Egypt and Algeria, more specifically in employment, as we have seen the Minister of International Cooperation, Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, having a proposed plan to be having more opportunities, more collaboration, more cooperation between both countries. But on the other hand, how do you see those plans being translated on the ground for the benefit of both countries?
Well, first of all, I have to speak about something very important. I mean, what we have undertaken in the last few years about paving the way for investments. I mean, all these projects that even some of us doubt the importance of them. I think now we are starting to gain the fruits of such a policy. I mean, we have totally changed the face of Egypt when it comes to transportation and how you can move from one area to the other. We are talking about several new economic zones, such as the Suez Canal zone. We have prepared the way for investors to come. Recently, we have seen also the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who came here, and we discussed the possibility of Saudi Arabia participating in several macro projects in Egypt, giant projects in Egypt. And Algeria also is interested in investing in Egypt. We have prepared the land. We are ready to receive foreign investments. I think even on the scale of tax reforms, on the scale of how to export, and the dollar exchange or the hard currency exchange price. All this we have worked hard in order to make it appealing to investors. And now it's the time of starting to get the investors themselves coming to check about all the promises that we gave earlier. Algeria is interested, and don't be surprised when tomorrow and after tomorrow we receive more and more ministers who are coming. It's not by accident that the minister came with the president to talk with Her Excellency Rania Al-Mashat about the possibility of cooperating with Egypt in several projects and investing Algerian money in Egyptian projects and so forth. So I believe that we have done a very large part of the duties that were on our shoulders, which is to pave the way, as I said, for investors to come and find what they are looking for. As you know, what the officials and administrations are doing is just to provide the umbrella under which the private sector is going to be working. But the private sector wants to make sure that he's going to make a profit, or else he would turn to another country that will give him better opportunities. And if the administrations or the governments in both countries have provided this umbrella, then we will have more and more investors who will come to explore the possibilities of a good investment here in Egypt. And I believe we are ready to receive those investments, and we are ready to serve them in order to once again reach the motto I've spoken about earlier, which is a win-win situation. We are going to gain new industries. We are going to have labor forces being able to work, and at the same time we are going to receive investments, and those investors are going to make profit when we export those goods and so on. So I think that we are all ready to a new step in Egypt, not just to beg for investors. Actually, the investors themselves see the opportunities, and they are coming with their own feet to explore the possibilities of a better experience here in Egypt.
There's a whole cycle, and everyone wins at the end of it. Ambassador Medhat Miligy, the former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.